In what state the Bladetongue found the Duchess of Yerbath, being in flight from the conquest of Sinistox and his worm-held legion. Then answered she, I shall tell it, though my heart break. After thy departure upon the penance we assigned the Bladetongue, Sinistox withdrew not, but took cunning advantage, a chance to turn my own subjects against me. Within 2 days the realm was sore troubled. Murmurs rose among the people. My own lieges came before me, protected by their armsmen, and interrogated me, making innuendo of profane love and treason. Then that false knight Sinistox with brazen spear did storm the castle, wielding foul magics. Taken I was, and in my bondage repented that I had laid too perilous a task upon thee and thy fellowship, who might else have stood between me and this ruin. The companions drew close about the fire, their weariness forgotten while she spoke on. Her voice, trembling, told of the horror that followed. "O sorrow unforeseen," said she. "Sinistox, my own brother, though few be wise to it, has usurped our seat by deceit and witchcraft. With honeyed tongue he sowed falsehood among our knights, concocting lies and making secret insinuation, using his well-spoken speeches to convince many. Then brewed he a potion of cordulant mushroom, reared in the undergardens where elder dragons once trod, leaving their virtue in the soil. By such means, in loathsome ritual of the pagan craft, he summoned the draconian spirit. By inducing many of our knights to imbibe the seething and delicious liquor, calling it cider, he bewitched our noblest, transforming them into berserks, each one becoming a frenzied demoniac, half mad, but yet obedient. With that devil's host, he stormed the hall. Some righteous lords fought beside me for Yerbath, but many yielded. Into this wilderness he drove us, not daring to slay his sibling, lest heaven mark him as another Cain. Strange it be that amidst such mischief he would heed one divine admonition, forgetting so many others. Yet I be as though slain anyway, for to dwell in an alien land is but slower death. To wander here forgotten and lost in Cargiwal's trackless waste, surely waiting to die, meanwhile carrying on hand to mouth as a savage. Now my brother will be Duke of Yerbath, and govern all the realm, even though our father the king still liveth, though burdened with age. He will convince my father that all is lost, and that I have abandoned him and run off with some lover to a fairer realm. He will counsel him abdicate the throne of Ulthor, surrendering it to himself. Oh, how fallen is our own house now." Norgons, filled with awe and alarm, replied, "But fear not, worthy Duchess, for we are here with certain knowledge of the prince's treacheries. The Book of Proof, which the wizard Xenops compiled, ancient and dark, reveals in its pages the facts that will restore not only my reputation but Sinistox's unworthiness to govern. It is in the hands of the king, if he would but have the bishop examine it." Amazed, the Duchess spoke. "I knew that you would adventure into dangerous places, so I sent thee my worthy physician to mend your wounds, for I was sore at heart for having dismissed all of you so rashly. But tell, how come you by such a codex that contains secrets which none thought could ever be recovered?" Then together did they make answer. The Bladetongue detailed all that had transpired on their arrival at Ironport, their going forth at night and marauding of the tower. Then did Norgons pause and begin to speak with gravity. "Some also fell quite recent on behalf of the quest. Just as we passed through this desolate wilderness, we lost 2 of our companions, Peri Lothran and Gulathar Deepwalt, taken by packs of wild beasts, monstrous in ferocity. So we lost them. This is why we can no longer bear that the sheriff and your royal duchess continue camp in this wilderness." Then Norgons, turning aside from the company, said softly to the Duchess, "Lady, there is yet another sorrow that I must unfold, for one of noble heart hath fallen, even Phaethar, the valiant youth. In the hour when the tower was overthrown, he stood against the darkness, and by his steadfast courage purchased our deliverance. Later, we witnessed his body borne away upon the river by maidens in white raiment, some mystical occurrence, and his golden armor left behind, which we took in reverence and divided among us. Thus liveth his memory in each man's keeping." The Duchess stood up and walked away so that the others might not observe her expression. Her face was pale, and her hands, folded upon her breast, trembled slightly. Yet she wept not, but gazed long toward the waste, and spoke. "Phaethar, gentle and faithful knight, how fair thy promise, and how swift thy bold passing, yet in the bloom of life. O that my realm had been so steadfast as thou wert, for then no foe had prevailed. Go, brave soul, unto thy rest. May angels bear thee to the isles of light." So she spoke without tears, yet with such quiet sorrow that all were moved. A long silence fell among them, and the wind passed sighing through the canvas folds of the pavilion. After a while, she turned again to Norgons. "Priest of the church, thou hast told of Phaethar. Tell me now of Thalfin, my tutor and my friend. He was wont to stand beside thee in council, and I loved his wisdom well. How fares he? Where abideth he now?" At that question Norgons bowed his head and spoke not, for he feared the wound it would strike in her heart, having heard whisperings of her affection for that lost man. The Duchess, perceiving his silence, grew pale and said again, more faintly, "Answer me, good Norgons. Doth he live?" Then Urias, who was ever plain of speech and would not see a noble heart deceived, stepped forth and spoke. "Lady, it were no kindness to cloak truth. Thalfin, thy servant and teacher, is gone from this world. In the tower of Xenops he strove to harness arcane powers too great for mortals, seeking to redeem the lost knowledge of Nystol. Too rare an opportunity to pass up, he said. and he would correct the waning world. We warned him it were too dangerous, but he heeded not. So that grand spell he did cast, too tremendous for his skill, which turned upon him, and consumed him in flame and wind. We found no body, only light, fading into the void. At those words the Duchess uttered a cry as though her soul were riven, and she fell upon her knees beside the fire. Then, covering her face with her hands, she wept bitterly, and her tears fell upon the cold earth. Long she lamented in that wise, and none durst speak. At last she lifted up her head, and said these words through tears. O Thalfin, thy books, thy quills, thy gentle robe of magics, haunting arms of one too noble for the world. Be witness, ye men of Ulthor, that my love for Thalfin was not wanton, but was pure. He taught me letters and philosophy, and the wisdom that leads to heavenly knowledge, and I cherished him for his virtue, not for desire. Yet the heart loveth deeply those who awaken the mind, and now that light is quenched, I am desolate indeed. Urius consoled her. Still now your sorrow, lady, for he died a valiant lord, and will be remembered well. But she replied, trembling, The poor man, my thought now turns on his soul, as the church looks not favorably upon such wizards. Then Norgons, greatly moved, knelt beside her and said, Lady, grieve not overmuch. The one who readeth the hearts of men and women knoweth the truth of thy affection, and be assured, though Thalfin be taken from our sight, his spirit may be delivered, for God is both just and merciful at once, and will weigh how he worked with us to restore truth, and would heal the miserable race of men, as did our Lord. The Duchess rose, her tears still falling, yet her countenance serene, as one who hath prayed. Let it be so, quoth she, for I would not murmur against the will of God. Yet shall I remember him each day till my own passing. Let the bards of Yerbath keep his name among their lays, for he loved the light of reason, and reason is divine. For that light he died. So ended that night's sorrow, and the Duchess spake no word, but sat long gazing into the embers. The company kept silence likewise, and the fire sank low. At length they laid them down in weariness, and so took what rest they might. Part 6. When morning brake, cold and pale, the wind swept over the camp, and the Duchess came forth from her pavilion, her countenance calm yet resolute. She called the companions to her and said, The proof you describe is undeniable, my friends, yet against my brother's power it availeth not save heaven lend us strength. Still, hope is kindled anew within my heart, for now I have again my cleric Norgons, and now added ye brave fellows of the Bladetongue. Together we shall seek the ancient guardians of lost Cargiwall, saintly intercessors, and by heaven's strength reclaim our land from the usurping hands of Sinistox. The company, hearing her words, took fresh courage, and their hearts revived, and they spoke words of loyalty. Seeing the change of cheer, the Duchess spoke again. There stands not far hence an ancient shrine from happier days, a sanctum of the early grace, raised when his kingdom Ashkar illumined all the world from Mount Argunitial. The histories say that pilgrims may gain a blessing there. For when in the Second Age the Almighty indicated his displeasure to the ancient and melancholy idolaters of this land, they hardened their hearts, so the Almighty refused to bless her lush pastures any further. He instead consigned their land to ever-blowing gales and dust-laden clouds, allowing the vast wolds to fill with rusty dirt and tainted water, laying waste both forest and crop. But he would not let his wrath fall upon the few who loved him, a remnant who long dwelt apart. These he spared, whose clans survived many years before fading into legend. Their sacred shrines still stand, men say, tended by the angels unseen. Let us go there and pray for strength and favor, and so win a blessing before all else. Then said Urius, "Lead on, noble lady, for with heaven's help we shall find our deliverance." So they spoke, and shared victuals over the struggling fire, and passed the early hours untroubled by ghost or beast. Before noon they struck the tents, and went their way across the wild. Through thorn and stone they laboured till they came at last unto the famous shrine of Masion, a house of old grey stone, standing solitary amidst the waste. They entered in quietly. No rust-bearing dust could be seen befouling the tiled floors, but it was perfectly ordered and reverently decorated, as was the shrine entire. Such was the work of upkeep, that not even a cobweb defiled the walls, for though no human hand had served there for an age, yet was it kept in reverent order by powers unseen. Knowing the place to be hallowed, Norgons knelt down before the primordial statue of Masion as the others looked on, and he led them in prayer, saying, "O ancient father of the 5 realms, Masion, who went forth and blazed the first trail cutting through wilderness when the world deluge was yet receding, we venerate you and honor your name. Look upon us in our desolation. Grant us strength to free your descendants from bondage and to bring down the pride of the usurper. Yet, if by thy intercession he will turn him from his sin without the shedding of blood, let it be so. And if war must come, then be God's will done. But as for today, we beg you show us the way to safe harbor." Even as he prayed, there came a sudden clean wind, like the breath of angels, and sunlight shone into the shrine. A little haven bird fluttered in and landed on Masion's head, a most striking omen, as there were few birds about in that wasteland. The Bladetongue were filled with awe, and with warmth as of celestial fire, and they bowed their heads. Then cried the Duchess, "A sign is given. We are under the Lord's blessing. Arise, my brothers, and watch whither the little bird flies. Perhaps he will lead us to some good place, and then gaining support from our allies abroad, we shall prepare as Scripture teacheth, faith our shield, and truth our sword. Then may the power of Sinistox be thwarted by war or diplomacy, and right return unto our realm." Thus emboldened, They set forth and followed the bird as it flew from the blessed head and hopped out the upper openings of the dome, and flying from tree to tree, and branch to branch more it went along, even into the wilderness of Cargiwall, and they followed along an unknown path, barely visible, which they would never have thought to, and the weather cleared and the wind lessened to gentle breeze. And behold, the bird led them up a sparsely forested hill, and they climbed to the top and saw a grand vista, and from there beheld afar a monastery in a valley, white-walled and steadfast against the black rock of the sparse land. The otherwise merciless sun beyond the clouds was obscured by dusty admixture strains of rust. The horizon stretched out in an unending expanse of rust-colored dust and jagged rocks, a landscape of many dead forests that seemed to conceal a melancholic life of its own. Covering their faces, they followed a faint trail through the corridors of great rock outcroppings, distraught in profile. Then said Norgons, "Look there, comrades. A cross riseth over the waste. Surely it is a refuge, a bastion set against the powers of darkness. Holy men must be dwelling there, and if they are yet among the living, they might endure our company, rejoice to receive the Duchess, and by God's clemency grant us harbor from this harsh land." They hastened toward the place, and when they drew nigh, as they approached, a long-bearded monk, cloaked in the simple robes of his order, emerged from the gates. His eyes, though weary of the watch, had a peaceful glow, his voice as a balm against the harsh wind. "Welcome, travelers. May this poor home of the servants of God be a refuge for you from the harsh wasteland. Come ye in out of the wilderness, for it is our charge to give comfort unto the lost, our divine commission to host strangers stranded by the bleak wolds. Enter and be refreshed, and see how the Lord provides even in this barren land." Then were they led within the cloister, where fountains murmured and the air was mild. The abbot himself came forth to greet them, a man wise with years and grave of countenance, who kissed each upon the brow, saying, "Peace of God be upon you, travelers. I am the abbot of the men who abide in this hallowed place. What angel guides you to this remote edge of the world, to a sacred abode so obscure its name is unknown to all but the local goat-herders? Yet before ye answer, I pray that your weapons be left at the gate, and that the lady wear this hood and monkish gown, as to not draw attention. My lord, this lady is the royal Duchess of Yerbath. She may so deign to conceal herself, being pious and revering the monks, but we may not be deprived of our arms, as we are soldiers charged to guard her. Very well, but be ye mindful that this place is the house of God, and he will not suffer worldly strife in his halls, no matter how worthy be the cause." What strange turn of events did the Bladetongue learn in the monastery? When they were entered within the monastery walls, the abbot received them with gentle courtesy, saying, "First, my children, let us go unto the grand chapel, and there render thanks unto Almighty God, who hath delivered you from the wrath of the wilderness. Thereafter shall you rest, and we will provide bread and wine to comfort your weariness." So speaking, he led them across the cloister court, where fountains murmured softly amid the colonnades. As they went, he said further, "Know that we harbor at times poor travelers who, lost upon the wolds, come hither seeking shelter. And verily, one nobleman arrived even this morning, sore spent by the dust storm, who now resteth in prayer before the altar. He seemeth a man of lineage and breeding, though greatly wearied in spirit." They passed beneath the high arch and came into the grand chapel. It was a hall of solemn beauty, wrought of dark cedar and oak, the light of the upper windows falling in dusky beams upon carved stalls and saints' effigies. The altar flamed with votive candles, and there before it knelt a solitary man, his face bowed, his hands clasped upon the rail. The abbot raised his voice. "My son, arise and greet these travelers, whom God hath also brought safe from peril." The figure stirred and slowly rose. His robe of dust-stained velvet caught the dim light, and when he turned, the company beheld his face. A low murmur passed among them. The Duchess gasped and caught her breath. Norgons started forward. Even the monks shrank back in awe. It was Prince Sinistox. Instantly the Bladetongue closed about him, hands upon sword hilts, their eyes aflame. Norgons cried aloud, "By all the saints, traitor, thou art taken! Yield thyself, for thy crimes are known, usurpation, sorcery, and conspiracy. We arrest thee in the name of the crown and of divine justice." Sinistox stood unmoved, his face pale and proud. He wore no mail, but beneath his cloak his hand was hidden upon a dagger's hilt. "So," said he coldly, "the hounds of Yerbath have found their quarry. Think ye I knew not where ye fled? I have been dogging your flight through these blasted realms, till even fate grew weary of the chase. The storm scattered my knights, yet by fortune, or by providence, I came hither, and the abbot, a man of mercy, gave me bread and water. I commend his charity, though it be wasted upon rebels and heretics as yourselves." At that word the Bladetongue burst out in wrath, protesting their loyalty to crown and faith. Urius made to spring forward, unsheathing his sword, but Norgons stayed him with uplifted hand. Then the Duchess came forth from among them, her face pale yet queenly. "O my brother," she said, "how fallen art thou from honor! I lament thee more than I hate thee. Once wert thou noble, but pride and dark enchantment hath made of thee a stranger to thine own blood. Look on me. Dost thou feel no shame to raise thy voice in this holy place, knowing the grief thou hast sown?" But Sinistox laughed low and bitterly, and stepped backward toward the altar. There, laying both hands upon its carved edge, he cried aloud, "Here I claim the right of sanctuary. This is God's own house, and none may lay hand upon me within it. Not priest, not knight, nor sister shall profane the holy peace." The abbot, much troubled, stretched forth his arms and spake solemnly, "Hold, my children, you promised no use of the sword. The law of sanctuary is sacred. and may not be broken, though he be sinner and usurper, as you claim. Yet I know ye not, and even did I trust ye, it would make no difference. While he clingeth to God's altar, he hath asylum, and is under heaven's protection. I charge you all, in Christ's name, withdraw. For a long space none moved. The Duchess bowed her head, trembling. Then Urias sheathed his sword, and Norgons spoke. God's will be done. If heaven protecteth him, let heaven also judge him. So they turned and departed from the chapel, their hearts burning with anger and dismay, and the great doors closed behind them. The abbot remained standing before the altar, his face hidden in his hands. Sinistox, still clutching the rail, smiled faintly beneath the flickering candles. Then the monks led the Bladetongue and the Duchess to the guest house of the monastery, and there they were given food and rest. Yet all that night none slept soundly, for they heard the wind moaning in the cloister, and it seemed to them like the whisper of unseen powers disputing the soul of a prince. How there was a midnight parley between Sinistox and his sister. The monastery lay hushed in the stillness of midnight. Faint moonlight filtered through the arches of the cloister and gleamed upon the tiled floor, pale as the bones of saints. From outside came only the rustling of dry reeds and the distant cry of a night bird. Within her narrow guest cell, the Duchess could not sleep. Long she lay wakeful, her mind restless with pity and remembrance. At last she rose, drew her mantle about her, and passed softly through the silent corridors. A lamp flickered alone before the image of the Virgin, casting her shadow upon passing. She came at length unto the grand chapel, and there, upon the steps of the altar, still knelt Prince Sinistox. His cloak was spread about him, his head bowed in prayer or in defiance. The candles burned low, their light casting tall, wavering forms along the wooden walls. For a while she stood unseen, watching him. Then she spoke in a voice gentle as wind through the reeds. "Brother, why hast thou brought such ruin upon our house? All Ulthor mourneth for thy rebellion. What madness hath bound thee to this dark path?" He turned slowly, and his eyes shone in the dim light, not wholly fierce, but weary and haunted. "Sister," said he, "thou shouldst not have come. The abbot would forbid thee. Sanctuary is mine, and none may approach me save in peace." "In peace I come," she answered. "I seek not thy harm, but thy soul. Think what thou wast once, our father's pride, the people's hope. Would that thou could repent, and seek mercy of heaven while time yet is granted thee." At that word he rose, and the candlelight showed his face, pale as ivory, proud and beautiful still, yet marred by shadow. "Repent," he said. "I have done no wrong that I repent. I sought greatness for our realm, strength to end bad laws. But you and your clerics love weakness, and call it virtue. The gods of old let us employ power yet, even shed blood for their honor. Forsooth, I do have faith which your Christ requires, even hope that a new world be born. But love I do not have. not to kneel to one who lets men perish as a lesson in humility." "You blaspheme, Sinistox," she said sadly. "And yet, even so, I love thee still, as blood must love blood. Oh, would that thy heart were not so hard." He faltered then and looked away. For a moment the proud mask failed him, and a tremor passed his lips. "Sister," he said low, "it is too late. I have gone too far in oaths and deeds. Were I to seek pardon now, heaven itself would spurn me." "Nay," she answered, "heaven turneth none who turn first to it. Even Cain was given a mark of mercy." He made no reply, but lifted his eyes toward the altar. The candles flickered, and in their wavering glow he seemed almost otherworldly, as though caught between two worlds. Then the great bell tolled matins, echoing through the corridors. The monks' chanting rose faintly in the distance. The Duchess bowed her head, and tears fell silently to the floor. "Farewell, my brother," she whispered. "I shall pray for thee till my own soul's departing." But Sinistox did not turn again. When she had gone, he sank once more upon his knees, his hand resting upon the altar rail. "Pray for me then," he murmured, "if thy prayers can pierce the gate that bars me." And as the chanting swelled and the dawn approached, the wind rose suddenly through the chapel, snuffing half the candles so that the shadows deepened round him like wings. And then Sinistox was gone. The law that was learned concerning the ancient wickedness. In the morning, after breakfast, the abbot summoned Norgonce to a private chamber to voice his intention. "Sir Norgonce, priest of God, I have questioned the prince concerning these matters. He claims that the king of Ulthor, his father, is in possession of a text titled The Book of Dominion and Grace, which is writ in your own hand and describes a number of heresies inimical to Holy Church. If this is true, I can harbor you but a single night more, and you must sleep with the barn animals. We cannot suffer untruth to abide at ease in this house and spread its contagion to the gentle souls here. If you admit your guilt, we shall provide you with an inquisitor who will heal you of your sin, and then you may stay on for more days. But if you will not recant, I must turn you over to the state, whose immediate executor is the prince." Norgonce stepped forward. His voice was steady despite the weary tones. "Good abbot, we are no heretics, but rather the Bladetongue, loyal warriors from Ulthor's fairest, Yerbath city, upon the white shores. False accusations first cast us forth, and now we seek against the wrongs inflicted by the usurper's unchristian hand. We have with us the Duchess of Yerbath herself, exiled by the machinations of Sinistox, wrath prince who has seized her sovereign seat through dark and unholy means, and who now aims to usurp the high throne of Ulthor. Have ye not yet heard of him in these parts? His deeds are notorious. Some angel indeed must have guided us here, for indeed, kingdoms entire are at stake." The abbot's brow darkened, a stern wrinkle passing over his serene countenance. Could it be true? This is the same prince who is famously called Sinistox, the one who brought civil war to your kingdom. Grievous indeed is the news you convey, and my suspicion of his character confirmed. Lars Kinistoxus is his name in Latin here known. That name carries a weight of dread consequence throughout the Firthlands. Speak without reserve, and pray tell me all that has transpired. In this way I can lawfully put aside the accusation of heresy." Then Norgons recounted unto the abbot the tale entire, each word steeped in bitter truth and sorrow. He spake of Xenop's accursed tower, of the battles endured and the noble sacrifice of Phaethar, of the finding of the Eldark book, and of the fell treachery of Prince Sinistox, who by unhallowed art sought to ascend to the summit of power, conjuring a draconian spirit to overthrow the rightful governess of Yerbath, with a view to the kingship. The abbot stroked his hoary beard and sighed. "Ah," said he, "a draconian spirit that men drink down. 'Tis none other than Vorthragna, whom the ancient Oruskans called Dracodaimon. Not beast of earth is she, nor flesh and bone, but of supernal element, a creature compact of celestial corporality." "Vorthragna?" said Norgons. "Dire of repute is that name in Eldark legend. Good father, tell us more of this dragon." The abbot inclined his head. "Bring in your blade tongues into this chamber, and then shut well the doors, as what I shall tell is fearsome indeed, and not even spoken of among our monks." And Norgons went and gathered the others to hear it. He returned, and they all took seats in the chamber. Then the old man sat himself down upon a bench of oak, and was silent for a space, as one that calls back fearful memories. At last he spake. "Verily, a shadow lieth upon your beloved Yerbath. The work of Sinistox sendeth chill through my bones. He hath made compact with Vorthragna the worm, mother of all dragons, seven-headed fiend of insatiate vice, a hydra of hell, bane of Christian men. Her tails strike down the stars from heaven, and her smoke darkens the sun. Long hath she sought to seduce this very house, sending forth her succubi. Spirits of carnal deceit cloaked in seemly guise, to tempt the brethren of this monastery. Such are her hirelings out of hell itself." Urius, marveling yet steadfast, asked, "Father, how may men prevail against a creature that is spirit-born, whose malice is older than the world? What defense have we against so fell a thing?" The abbot, gazing downward, answered low, "There is but one way to vanquish Vorthragna, the many-headed terror. Being of spirit, she cannot be annihilated, nay, only banished. She must be bound and chained and dragged to her confinement. And there is but one prison ordained for her, the fathomless pit beneath Mount Abaddon, vault of condemned titans, the abyss of Tartarus." Only there may her malice be sealed. Know ye that the original purpose of this monastery was to keep watch upon Mount Onagern, that dread volcano wherein her strength abideth. The monk's unceasing prayer alone restrains her utter triumph. Yet through the corruption of rites and the slackness of men, the old vigilance of the church wanes and is nigh fallen away. In the towns of our people, few anymore worship the Lord upon his sacred day of rest. Now, to our dismay, we learn that many, falling back to heathen superstition, cast their firstborn into the fire as sacrifice to Vorthragna, mother of all. Thus, by blood flame, the demons wax strong again, and when the spirit within man moulders, the flesh of the unvigilant is easily ensnared by the succubi. So cometh she and goeth from her cone of mystical chambers as she list, and none hinder her. Someone must enter that dread mount, find her lair, and bind her fast with chains that no power can loose. You must sever her many heads, so the telepathic channels of her dominion be cut off, and the worm lords, the same demoniac knights who drank down the brew of the prince, be released from the diabolic possession. Belderrock, his voice trembling, inquired, "And how are these Bladetongue to accomplish this? What manner of sorcery can bind such a fiend?" The abbot looked upon them long in deep calculation, searchingly, as one who reads a page half divine. At length he murmured unto himself, "Can it be that after all these years our prayers are answered? These men, not common soldiers taking pay, but chosen ones, bearing neither heraldic banner nor secular chain. They are as the prophecy foretold upon the annal leaf. Our monks have long been expecting you and have made preparations. Come, my sons, follow me." He took a lamp and led them down through a narrow stair into the monastery's deep vault. The air grew chill as tomb breath. Their shadows leapt long upon the stones. At the heart of that place stood tables where rested relics of great sanctity, and upon an iron reel lay coiled a vast silver chain. "This," said the abbot, laying hand upon it, "is the chain of Elamlanc, something left by the ancient patriarchs for us, a gift from the high elves in elder ages, forged by masters of metallurgy. It is said to have been blessed on Mount Argunitial by God himself at the end of the First Age, when Vorthragna made war against heaven to achieve the sapphire throne of the universe, having bewitched the giants of Nerus to her cause. Originally forged for the dragon hunt, it will prevail to keep bound even the mightiest of beasts. Of old, no human had ability to hunt and slay a dragon. This talent was given to the elves alone. Then came the new time in which we live, the courtly elves of old having departed from the Whitehawk continent. Yet by grace can a human of faith equal their prowess at the hunt. Therefore God would have you men accomplish this task. With this you can chain Vorthragna and transport her headless to Mount Abaddon to be cast forthright into Tartarus. No human hand may forge its like again. Long have we kept it in trust, awaiting the day of need." Then the abbot gave signal, and certain of the monks came forth to lift up the sacred relic. Norgons stepped forward and beheld it marveling. The chain was great in length and was finely wrought, every link chased with small runes of argent fire, and the weight thereof was light beyond nature. For the metal was spun of some high physic, beyond the cunning of men. "I know this substance," said Belderrock. "'Tis no earthly ore, but celestial, a silver drawn from a fallen star. Be not deceived by its seeming frailty, for it is stronger than the silk from the Chaz worm of Setet. This quest," said Norgons, "we shall most gladly undertake, good father, with thy benediction and the grace of the Almighty, and by this holy relic's virtue, we shall turn the evil tide and send all the iniquitous workers to their reckoning." Then the abbot laid his hand upon Norgons's shoulder and said, "Go ye into the dark with the light of the Lord God. Take these sacred torches for your going. The path is perilous and the night without measure, but courage shall be yours. Remember well, restoration of the crown is won not by prayer or relic alone, but by the deeds of men who lay down their lives for others. This ye know already." And at that saying, who among the Bladetongue thought not upon the young Phaethar? Which of them did not still bemoan that bright hero lost forever to the treacherous deeps of Xenop's tower? Who did not feel inwardly for that companion Bladetongue who left such a model of virtue, now patron of their military order? That night the company took rest within the monastery's peace. For the first time in many days their dreams were untroubled, and they found ease for mind and limb. Only the Duchess lay apart, as was the custom, the monks lodging her honorably in a house adjoining the cloister. When the dawn was yet unborn, the brethren rang their bells for matins, and the Bladetongue were summoned to prayer. The old chants rose up through the chill air, a bulwark of sound against despair. Afterward they broke fast in silence, and gathered their arms and harness, making ready to seek the infernal beast that had undone 2 kingdoms. The Duchess would have gone also, burning to strike one blow for Yerbath. Yet Norgons and the others forbade her. "It is not your fight, gracious lady," said Urius. "If you perish, we shall have naught left to contend for, and Yerbath would be doubly desolate, imperiled and without hope. Wait rather here with Sheriff Rollo, and pray for the success of the hunt, meanwhile summoning your allies abroad. And after, untouched by the dragon, with us you shall march upon Yerbath, and oust the rebels, reclaiming your rightful seat." She reasoned long, but could not amend their counsel, for she also knew how the ancient law of Ulthor forbade any of royal blood to hazard the dragon hunt. She laid hand upon her father's sword, that haunting arm of royal days long vanished. So must rulers often stand aside, yielding glory to the hands of others. Now all was made ready. The abbot lifted his hand, and 3 monks came forth. "To strengthen your company," said he, "I appoint these brethren who will serve you to the very top. Brother Thaddeus, your guide, who knoweth each crag and torrent of the mount, how to prevail over the precipitous terrain. Brother Demetrius and Brother Jared also, physicians well versed in the healing of wounds. Your task is great, but so too is your help. Go now, and bring true light to this benighted land, so rightful authority be restored to Yerbath." "I crave one question yet, good father," said Urius. "If this dragon be spirit incorporeal, with what confidence shall mere flesh and blood make war upon her and prevail?" Then the abbot raised his staff and made answer, "With the confidence that you are sons of God. When the hour is ripe, you shall know what to do. Be now resolute, and doubt no more. For Thragna is preternatural, a creature of subtle form, classed as a Nephilim according to the bestiary, made of the corpora hyptomica in superstantial element which affords her ethereal traverse. Our theologians assert that such be spirit, not flesh, but somehow having a body that no common weapon may wound, save only that which is christened. The monks shall bless your arms, every sword and corselet, with holy water and sacred chrism. Bear them as sacramentals of steel. Pray the beads as ye go. Call upon the Virgin throughout the entire expedition. Waste no word nor meditate upon vain things, for the hour is short, and there is no time for fear." Then said Kajet, "Now the beast will learn her own part in things, taken suddenly like a queen, poorly placed in a chess game." To those words the abbot replied, "Aye, but it be not fated. All depends on the hearts of men. And when you meet the dragon, know that her ruin will come, as writ in prophecy. But pray it be now and by your hand, not later after souls innumerable be lost. The truth of her place in the divine mystery shall be shown her by my monks. Her many heads shall not endure the revelation. She shall devour herself or burst asunder. Therefore make bloody your thoughts." He blessed them once more at the monastery gate, his eyes shining with strange hope and confidence in them. "May the Lord watch over you, Bladetongue, and soon restore your grand Duchess to her seat." Then, with hearts fortified, and the chain of silver shining at their side, the Bladetongue set forth toward Mount Onaghern, where the dragon of 7 heads awaited the binding decreed at the world's foundation. Of the trek to Mount Onaghern, the terrible cone of fire. They set forth toward Mount Onaghern that day, carrying the silver chain gleaming like moonlight captured, the great relic against the ancient dragon. The wind howled through the desolate plains, seeming to bear warnings of forgotten evils and the faint promise of divine aid. From the far horizon, the cone uprose, grim and blasphemous as a giant stone. And they marched towards it, watching the grisly top belch smoke and fire, as if hell itself would breathe. Belderrock said, "Now we enter into the throat of the dragon. All the errors of my life have brought me to this doleful moment, an evil destiny. Alas that I had been wiser and endured a little hunger, adhering to lawful conduct and avoiding these misadventures. Why did I agree to go on? Nay, why even fret about it any more? Soon my troubles will be over. Belderrock, do you hear yourself? Said Rohorst. Cast behind you the sorrow of former things, fixing your mind upon the labor yet before us. Let the sacredness of this charge overcome all fear in you. So did the great ranger teach him, explaining how the path will assay both soul and sinew, yet trusting in heaven's power and the strength of their oaths, they go forward unshaken. For they are the Bladetongue, sworn by destiny and knit together in brotherly love. And their journey toward redemption and the recovery of their realm is but begun. Another day passed over that forsaken land. They pitched their tents and gathered tinder. The monks cooked pea soup and passed out black bread and ale. With furs for covering, they slept well, sharing the watch. But they rose stiff and cold beneath a lurid dawn. They took down the tents and made ready their packs. But as they set out, looking up they espied not far 2 figures traveling the waste, approaching, whose armor shone dimly in the sun's first light. With weapons drawn, the Bladetongue made themselves ready, deeming them bandits or worse. Urius calls aloud, "Declare yourselves, strangers. Ye look as thieves. We are a well-armed band. Do you not value your limbs? You are just 2 bowmen. Or is your skill as swift and sure as the gods of old? Speak, lest with our hands we send you early to the great accounting." Then answers one, raising his hand in greeting. "No strangers are we, son of Jarlath, but comrades of old, Damis and Odo here, sure-shot archers who once fought beside you in the wars ere fortune turned. We are no robbers, though the world so mocks us. Men must make a living somehow." Urius sheathes his broadsword with half a smile. "Then ye are thieves of another sort, soldiers of fortune, craving hire for but outrageously little effort of war labor. Yet I am glad to see you. Still, I warn you, we want not your service, as we cannot pay. No, indeed, we cannot give you any recompense for your very life, which you will surely forfeit. The road we walk leadeth unto certain death, and death is ever honest. Dying is not a wise way to make a living. Go find yourselves a more hopeful calling." Odo here laughed bitterly. "That is not how you sounded when chained in the jailer's wagon, strong Urius. We bore you goodwill then, and do still. Shall we now be cast aside, having tracked you thus far? Word is abroad that you hunt a dragon's horde. Let us aid you in the slaying, and we shall ask only a fair share of the haul, whatsoever glittery gold our pouches can hold, no more. If you find no dragon, we shall rob the robbers and buy drinks for you at the Golden Mermaid." "Sirs," said Urius, "it is no treasure hunt we fare upon. We go up against the powers of hell. The monks that walk with us will tell you. This errand is deathly peril to the soul. The regard for wealth compromises this sacred work we must do, and in this venture will imperil your soul as well." Odo here gazed with feigned wonder. "Soul, what be that but a philosopher's dream? But think, Urius, what else shall we do with our meager lives? Come, be reasonable, you unreasonable barbarian. We do not require payment, but just a minor share of the takings, nor shall we hinder your religious work with these monks." Urius looked to Norgons, who nodded for their acceptance. "Very well, then. Come, skillful yeoman. If you fight, you may earn a share of the haul, if there be any. Do not expect a pile of treasure. Rather expect to see yourself burned to cinders or swallowed alive. Blame not me. You were duly warned." So they join company and press onward through the grim expanse of Cargiwall, while Mount Oneghern loomed ever nearer, a smoking crown upon the world's brow. The air grows foul with brimstone, and the ground beneath their feet is scorched and completely barren, and they pass through a dead forest with many small ponds bubbling up, releasing sulphurous fumes. The monks lead them along a narrow path winding upwards, treacherous and steep. Norgons is first to speak, pausing to look up at that steep ascent. "Behold, the inferno that disrupts the very earth. The path to this mountain steeply mounts, and will be treacherous climbing through noxious airs. Cover your mouths with these wet cloths when needed. Grow ye not pale nor falter. With the banner of the Lamb, we can make it to the top, and then search out our prey." Belderok answers in turn. "This air is too thickly hot, and why does the ground seem to pulse like ancient and elemental war? What a mistake it was to pocket that bread stolen back in Yerbath, and so end up here, roaming the wilderness, my lungs burning, and soon to be devoured by some monster. Yet what choice have I? I walk with the Bladetongue, and live by their sword, or else am swallowed by hungry beasts upon the plain below." "Everybody must die sometime," says Urius. "Being no soldier, you are easily disheartened. If you must march with the Bladetongue, then it is best to think as they do, and hope in strength from on high. If you live beyond this day, you will always remember it. So take care to act accordingly, speaking only iron words." "As you say, barbarian. I did not expect you barbarians had such thoughts. I will try to be as you say. Yet bravely will I meet my day," says Urius, quoting some Eld Vathic prayer. "Even a priest will be there when we die. God is generous, even to sinners and men of little faith," adds Norgons. "But say, what foul power lurks within this mountain truly?" Belderok is perplexed. How can a spirit damage flesh and blood? It is the mountain itself we must fear. I wager there is no such dragon as you have described. But Norgons assures, "For Thragna's lair awaits, and be assured, it's a den of deceit where darkness reigns and evil knows no bounds. The little hardship the mountain offers will be thought as nothing. Therefore gird yourself. The resolve of men will be proved indeed." And upward they climb the twisting path, the heat and stench sulphurous increasing with every pace. The wind howls through the fissures, bearing the shrieks of unseen things. At last, they reach the mouth of a vast cavern, the gateway of the mountain, 4 cubits high and black as the innards of creation. Khajet speaks in awe. "The very portal of the celestial dragon. Few mortals have looked upon this abyss and lived. Here we fly into the marrow of time, to hunt prey, a beast older than man. Norgaunt's raises the shining chain. Brothers, do not tremble. And Urias says, with this holy bond shall we fetter her, then this land to azure sky, and a purging the waters from her poison and the people from her influence, and then see your own kingdom strengthened. Onward, brothers. So entering with torch held high, they disappear into the dark cavern. It winds upward and downward in cruel confusion. The stench of sulphur and brimstone clings about their throats, and in the tunnels are veins carved by molten rock, seeming to writhe with the warrior's own shadows cast. Through that infernal gallery they press, till at length they climb into a vast chamber, roofed 100 measures high, and lit by the dull glow of burning pools that seethe like fresh blood. Then Belderrock, whose tongue never ceased from utterance, cries, "What heart of darkness is this? Surely here lay the den of the spirit dragon, she that is no less phantom than doom itself. Her reek defiles the very air. May God deliver us." Of how fared the Bladetongue in their first try against Vorthragna the Terrible. Suddenly, a terrific booming rolled through the cavern. The hall quakes, and the mountain seem it would rend itself. "She is coming hither presently," says Norgaunt softly, "to greet her guests." So stand all the Bladetongue upon the black slope, gripping their weapons, mindful of the fate of those who went there before. The ground trembles beneath their boots. From the volcanic lake, Vorthragna emerges. Her 7 chromatic heads rear up with a hiss of horror, curling and twisting, an awful array of distorted majesty. On the forehead of each of those heads, a character of blasphemy is writ thereon. The foremost head in center, of livid blue and crowned with warty spines, bears a mien of false sanctity, lording it over the others as a pontiff of hell. Next comes one of green that sneers, and another of gold that laughs without mirth. A snarling red-colored head shakes about angrily and flaps the beast's great leathery wing upon the shrine beneath Vorthragna, an assuredly porculent brown head near her scaly now for your ever gnashing and chomping to bind me. But behind her haunches a pale head wallows oozing corrupt vapors. And obscene and wanton my power is below the waist. My wrath pinkish mouth hovers lowest. Whatever demigod sent this meat my way, lips I give not. Each tongue flickers forth as swords unsheathed of an army ready to charge. It is now and time, her baleful eyes glare with an intellect infernal. When the creature speaks, it sounds as many voices enwrapped in death and funeral dirge. Her breath stinks as putrid and charnel stench, born of foul as ever could be imagined. Who dares intrude upon the shrine of Vorthragna? She cries, "Ye mortal fools, weep now for your presumption. You seek to bind me, but fiercely shall you bewail this mistake, and surely now will die. Know you not? My power is eternal, my wrath unending. To whatever demigod sent this meat my way, I give nod, and be leashed.
Woe to the dwellers of earth.
To your place of rightful
Come,
imprisonment.
it is now time,
Things will go
and too long since I have supped.
The day of reckoning is come. Then Norgons stood forth boldly and brandished the steel mace Mithrohan. For Thragna, demon drake, born of perdition, he cried, you we hold in contempt. By the Lord God's decree, and by holy authority vested in me, we now constrain you with the right of the dragon hunt. Be silent, and know that we can bash your many heads with this relentless club, if need be, severing each, so putting to lasting closure thy reign of sin and perpetual night. Therefore submit and be leashed, and be returned to your place of rightful imprisonment, and things will go easier for you. Your day of reckoning is come. At that word the dragon laughed, a laughter like the breaking of 10,000 cataracts, and the beast surged across the fiery pool, charging at the Bladetongue, splashing through the waters, her 7 necks flashing like serpents uncoiling, to strike with utmost ferocity. The companions take cover behind rocks as best they can, not ready for an open sally and outright contest. Urius to Norgons, crouched beside him, says, will we hide like cowards from that detestable thing, good priest? We must endure it, says Norgons. We know not in full her powers. Rash valor be near of kin to folly. Victory comes more certainly by planned strategy than by frontal clashing. Does it seem not valiant and honorable? Or does such concealment appear unworthy to men who enjoy hearing of valor, but are themselves fain to take risks? So do not bother about it. The bard will describe it all as glorious. We are not frighted by her hideous glamour, which is all show. Her 7 necks flash like serpents uncoiling, and she smites the rocks with her wings so that flame leaps high as towers. Yet not all were hidden. The winged horror flies to the rock overhang under which Rohorst has squeezed and springs upon the ledge. She perches there, crouching, her coiling necks curl down like ropes, and snag him by arms and legs, dragging out the noble ranger. Forthright in a dismal display of her unholy power, Vorthragna hops down from the overhang and alights upon him like an eagle upon a salmon. Her devilish beaks begin tearing at the hero, whose body becomes steeped in crimson. Even as her teethy heads tear at his flesh, he can only squirm to free himself from the vice grip, for the ranger cannot escape, but is entirely constrained under her razor claws. Norgons would have charged, but there was no moment given, as her other eyes monitor in every direction. Belderoch, by his study on the metallurgical nodes of flashing fire, launches a lightning strike toward the hell beast in an attempt to drive it off. But this proves useless. The bolts bounce and twist about the heads, and then dissipate. Even such blasts, ethereal, do not much shake the abominable thing. It remains steadfast, and shamelessly gnaws on its newly found meat in the sight of all, each head's bloody maw swallowing down chunks of living human flesh, shrieking in delight. What disgust flashed through them as they witnessed their own brother thus butchered to feed such a vile monster. New resolve for awful vengeance now stirs in the Bladetongue. From their positions of cover, they begin launching spears and arrows, even rocks, whatever they had to punish the thing. Even so, the armor of the dragon was thick and not punctured, for her scales were proof against iron. Urius could contain himself no longer at the sight of his companion so wounded. With a great cry, he ran forth, sword in hand.
Get back, ye beast!
But stumbled among the slag. It was then that those blasphemous heads began sucking in volumes of air, filling the lungs of the beast. She exhausts upon the Bladetongue the breath blast, a strike of flashing fire. Yet with skill, Urius rolls aside and lives. Then Norgons, the grey-haired captain, called upon the highest power. Closing his eyes, he uttered the words of Christ, the thaumaturge, in the primordial Acharatic tongue. At his prayer, the winds of the world arose, howling down the corridors of stone, and the dragon was driven backward, shrieking with fury. The creature flew off. Even though driven was the enemy, they all could hear Vorthragna screeching at a distance somewhere in the dark recesses of the mountain, incensed at having been deprived of the full meal, yet mixed with glee at her calamitous victory of the first rounds. The monks hastened to Rohorst, who still lived, though torn and burnt. They washed his wounds with Vanik wine and laid on balm distilled from the Sardu cactus. But speech had left him. He looked to his companions knowingly. Kayet, closest friend of Rohorst, kneeling beside, spake softly the words that were already well known. Your wounds are too great to continue, my friend. No matter, you have fought honorably. You shall live to hear of how the Bladetongue avenged you. Then Brother Demetrius lifted the dying man and bore him from that unholy place, returning toward the monastery. So was Rohorst delivered from the dragon's maw, yet parted from his brethren. And though grievous was his sorrow, he was surely favored of heaven, for the path that remained to the Bladetongue led through chambers of peril wherein even angels would scarce tread. Only his bow remained, lying splintered on the rocks, gift of his great-grandfather, haunting arms of a valiant hunter. Part 7. Sore spent and full bruised of limb, the Bladetongue pressed onward into the darksome tunnels. The air is become lukewarm, and the furnace heat of the lower vaults yielded to a milder breeze. Away from molten streams, for a brief time they take refuge in a side chamber, a place for resting, and they take a little from the wineskins. But anon they found themselves returned unto the self-same chamber, as men bewitched in a maze. Norgons paused in the telling of his beads, and frowned. We are wandering in circles, said he. We must mark and heedfully note each winding and turning, alert to the change of echoes, and when occasion serve, take the unlooked-for way. The sound of bubbling water ushered them deeper into a central chamber. Here they came upon a ring of springs circling within the lower basin of the cone, their crystalline pools bright as glass, rimmed round with a roseate mineral pleasing unto the eye. Urius speaks first. A little haven from our troubles. These springs will ease our bones and cleanse us. Belderok answers him, shaking out dust from his ragged cloak. Fortune is upon us, for a time at least. We should wash away the dust of our sore pilgrimage. Can we not stay a while and take our ease? I wager the path ahead is fraught with peril. Such a monster cannot be mastered without a price. Down beside the springs they sit, aching of body after long subterraneous toil. They open and share rations, which at the first seem but spare and homely. But this food had been prepared by the monastery, soon found to be a delight to taste as well as the stomach. Well-baked barley bread, beans, cool water, and a little pickled fish. They quaff again of the wineskin. The lulling warmth of the pools and the soft murmuring of waters steal upon them unawares. One by one, they drift into idle musings, their minds dulled by weariness. Then the pools begin to ripple as though stirred from beneath, and from the depths arise ethereal shapes, fair and perilously lovely. Devotees of the wanton goddess whom the pagans called the knee-bender. These are more lovely than any man would ever have thought possible. They approach fixing their gaze onto each lord, their eyes like deep pools of night, faintly reflecting a mysterious charm within. They move with soft languor, weaving enchantment round the half-dreaming men. Their shoulders smooth as talons, necks like wondrous pillars, hair gloriously bundled or flowing, lovely eyes flashing deep desire. Nymphs of the water, offering fair company and all delights unlawful. One spoke in honeyed voice. You have traversed a great wasteland. Noble warriors, so now take your ease and let your dreams be made true with delight beyond mortal ken. They will surely surrender to our sweetness, our soft caress, which nothing in all the world can resist. Then they shall know the ecstasy of eternal night. The succubi flow around the daydreaming Bladetongue, their whispers like the siren's song. Several of the warriors stir, their imaginings becoming incarnate as they gaze upon the glamorous distractions. They reach out to embrace their new paramours, ensnared by the visions of voluptuous lips, lithe limbs, and beauty perilous. At that moment, Ambrosius Amuri, lion-visaged warden of travelers, looked forth from his high station and notes the danger. On the instant he descends and smites Norgonts with a flash of warning light. Even he, righteous cleric though he was, wakes trembling from carnal slumber and fights for mastery over his own desire. For though he practice the priestly virtue, he remains yet of human mold. He pinches himself to remember pain. Thus he alone discerns the seeming lovelies for what they really are. Demonic monsters with fang-bared maws concealed beneath pretty lips, suspended by strangling serpentine legs that coil under the waters unnoticed. He cries with a loud voice, "Awake, ye blade tongues! Resist these enchantresses, for they are not fair, but foul. These be not angels of comfort, but spiders of hell, sent to snare your souls and quench the divine fire within. Rising with great labor, Norgons shook the nearest by the shoulder, calling upon the Lord God to break the spell. Some blinked awake, yet their hearts were not wholly freed, for still they cast longing looks upon the apparitions, their hands stretched forth to clasp the shapely form. So Norgons, having no other recourse, resumes the beads, calling upon the radiant lady, the Queen of Heaven, for succor. A wave of divine power suddenly comes down upon the Bladetongue, the grace to withstand that which their flesh could not but embrace. Urias says low, trembling, "What sorcery is this? Lovely to behold, yet vile beneath. They would bind and devour us in their smooth wiles." One of the succubi answers with a whisper sweet as poison. "Do not resist, brave warriors. Why should you? We proffer joys without measure, and love without end. Why turn from the embrace of so sweet a delight?" Then Norgons lifts his voice. "Begone, temptresses! In the Lord God's pure light I charge you. Depart from this place. Trouble not these men in their sacred work." Being fearful now for all their company, and for the whole quest besides, he draws forth the holy cross from his pouch and holds it high before them. And at that sign they faltered and fell back a little, as though bridled for a moment. "Men," he cries, "awaken from your carnal dreams. Be not drawn from duty by their graceful form. Dismiss them and inform them you are Christians." Yet still the warriors lean forward, each longing to grasp the fair shape that held him captive, reaching out for a taste of earthly paradise. His words are lost to the enchantment of the deep. Khajet removes his helm, the golden relic, to more easily look upon the delightful lovely displaying herself before him. Then thought returns to Norgons of the Abbot's warning from the night before. Do not squarely oppose such charm creatures, or set your face against them. No man may outstare them. Make your company look away. Bid them flee. And so he called aloud, "Fly now, Bladetongue. Look not behind you for a second glance. No honor is lost in such a flight. The victory here is in the seeming cowardice, and no other way." But while the others waver, Belderok lurches forward to embrace his new paramour, the phantom that beckons him. His arms close on empty air, and the reckoning of that deceit smites him. The lingering irk from this frustration at last awakens him. He shakes himself free of the dream and sets about rousing the others with rough hands. Norgons displays the crucifix close upon each. At the sight of the silver crucifix, the succubi hiss and recoil, their shapes flickering like smoke in wind. The Bladetongue, gaining back their wits, all scramble to get their gear and forthwith flee. Save only for Khajet. He would have sped away with the rest, but desire did not wane in him, nor did any fear arise. So he began to depart, but lingered, and then, mindful of that further pain and travail that is before them, he becomes crestfallen, looks again for his longed-for new consort, his heart drawn toward the lovely vision that held him fast. Norgons lays hands upon him and tries to tie a cloth before his sight, but Kayet breaks it from him and thrusts the cleric aside. "Get from me, priest. The fire that stirs in some men you cannot understand." Neither Norgons nor Urias could hinder him, for he was a mighty man in strength, yet his will was overcome. He followed the false lover back toward the pool, taking her hand as though it were salvation. There in the shallows they stood face to face, each gazing desirously upon the other. The men cried out to Khajet, but he heeded them not. They embrace, and she pulls Khajet down into the waters, who lets himself be pulled down. With gentle arms she takes him and draws him close, and he yields, sinking down, down to the depths and a place from which he cannot return, where they will feed upon his flesh and leave his bones to a watery grave, unhallowed. Afterward, there is only silence and the sound of ripples touching the stone. Khajet is no longer to be counted among the living. With one last wail, the remaining succubi follow the successful one to join her in her victuals, eager to partake of her catch. After a space of heavy grief, Belderok spoke. "All is lost. If such terrible powers rise against us, then the same doom shall take us everyone, and none escape a bitter end. Men cannot war thus with spirits." "Say not so, Belderok," said Norgons. "Spirits may assail us, yet we are not forsaken. Stand as a man, and let heaven judge the end. Better to die faithful than live faint-hearted. Despair is the devil's first victory." Then, after a silent prayer, he said, "Brothers, Vorthragna placed them there. No man can advance in spirit if he be not pure. Return not to any waters in this place. To us all let what you saw be a lesson. Keep your wits about you. This dragon's defense is not only in might, but in cunning, deceit, and the snares of the soul. We must be ready in mind and be vigilant. Hell itself is behind her." Then the Bladetongue gathered their gear, knowing now how thin their company had become. Without Rohorst and without Kayet, their chivalry seemed frail indeed, for only remaining were Belderok, Urias, Norgons, the archers Damis and Odohir, and monks Thaddeus and Jared. The warmth of the springs, lately a welcome sight, had grown foul and troubled. Norgons spoke again. "Let us press on and search out the dragon's lair. We cannot rest while such a foe waits in the shadows." But to Urias aside he said in low voice, "We have now lost 2 men in this place already. Surely we will fail in this quest." And Urias replies, "Aye, we all will die, but we shall not forfeit our souls. So let us finish it steeped in dragon's blood, and die as we have lived, boldly, not as overcome by our weakness, as was our brother Khajet. Reign not the flesh. Flesh will bring forth but death. Yet, held in God's good hand, the man stands sure. Desire is water dark, where dreamers drown, and beholding will tempt the heart beyond its keep. 1. Accepting a gentle love in shadowy arms, found but solace void of mercy, and was lost. Urius knelt beside the darkling pool where Kayet sank, the bronze torque from his Vathic fathers gleaming like dull fire in his grip. Long did he look upon it, as one measuring love with judgment. At last he set it on the wet stones, tribute to a fallen brother. Yet even as his fingers left it, he faltered, for Kayet had not stood fast, but yielded to false delight, trading oath for dream, and brotherhood for drowning kisses. So Urius took back the talk, grave-eyed and slow. Hadst thou died, faithful companion, I would have left this token unto thy memory, but thou hast chosen a grave far softer than steel, and I must wear my honor still upon my neck. And the water answered, only with quiet circles fading to stillness. So they departed the chamber of baths, the taste of that foul enchantment lying heavy upon their lips, and ever stranger and more perilous went the way forth. They climbed an old lava tube worn to steps by ancient fire, and at length came upon a chamber set with a stout door. When they had broken the seal and pressed within, they beheld a great hall spread with a banquet of wondrous delight. Tables were laden with meats and viands rare. Silver goblets gleamed beside dishes trimmed in gold. Napkins lay folded with a courtly grace, and beneath all was cast a rich brown tablecloth broidered at the edges. Even at that first sight, hunger stirred in them. Yet none spoke till Urius found voice. The worm-held knights must have abandoned this table. I wager the roast was less tasty to them when alerted of our approach. "Who can say?" says Belderoche. "Yet already am I condemned by law for taking another man's fare. It will be of no use now to refuse myself these dainties. Let us be seated." Urius paused before he sat down, for he was troubled, and in his barbarian custom one must not eat when troubled. "How Lord Kejet was taken from us in that way, it is haunting. We should fast, not feast. Who now shall stand as vanguard with me when foes of great might press upon us? Why fell he so? Had he no lass in Niruz to hearten his return? How may the glance of a temptress overthrow a warrior so stout?" No one dared say anything, for Urius was grievous, hanging his head, most disturbed indeed. Finally, the monk Thaddeus sensed that some answer be given. "Do not despair, Urius. His work benefited the kingdom, but he was one I thought I should pray for when I met him. Seldom he joined us in prayer these past few days. To some, though they are Christian and strive for heaven, yet they are divided in heart, and the quenching of desire is the hope they cling to, secretly." "Aye," says Norgons, "and thereby doth the flesh grow mighty, and the spirit faint. A warrior must keep vigil within as well as without, and be singular in his heart." Urius bows his head. "I cannot judge him, and pray that not any of you shall. I am but recently a follower of the Lamb, yet I know at least this. We are flesh and blood, and temptations come as waves upon a shore." "What you say, Urius, is true," replies Norgons. "Only can God judge, and he will judge all ye. So let no soldier become slack or undisciplined. If another fall on this quest, your mind being elsewhere, or your passion not tempered by prayer, so the others will be endangered for lack of sturdy help, as we now are. Fight for your oath, brother, by living rightly in faithful brotherhood. We cannot lose another man." His word was held for wisdom. Then Brother Jared says, "Shall we not dismiss all that now and refresh ourselves? For so did King David when sorrow smote him. Here is a feast royal, fowl and meats, fruits rare, and chalices filled with wine. Methinks it be a snare, cunningly devised. What denizens of this volcano have such knowledge of civilized fare, so as to prepare such a table?" Brother Thaddeus replies, "Our rations run low, and now hunger gnaws without mercy. And if it be a snare, may we not eat with care? These dainties, I have not tasted the like since my entry into religion. It were sin to let such abundance fall to waste." "Nay," says Jared, "for we already tasted now but an hour past the wholesome food of God's good earth, barley bread, apples, water fresh, and pickled fish. This is another matter. Happy cakes and royal flavors, southern figs and dates, cheeses of rare kind, salmon eggs, roasts, roots, wines, and strong brandy. These are not for monks nor for men on holy errand. We need not elaborate delicacies as these. Perchance this table was set by hands unknown for masters dark, yea, for the crew of Sinistox." Norgons bows his head and studies the feast. "The pull of it, the sweetness, is strong indeed, and we are sore hungry. Yet prudence, this chamber seems not of kind hosting, but would to bind us to endless feast. I like it not." Despite the warnings of Norgons and Jared, among the Bladetongue their hunger rises like a tide, and they are drawn irresistibly to the table. One by one they hurry to take seat, and begin to partake. They forget even to bless the fare. Rich meats pass their lips, wine warms their bellies. The more they eat, the greater waxes their craving, till they are raptured in a circle of mindless feasting, each morsel calling for another, as they reach for various dishes. Belderok speaks through a mouth full of meat. "Such savour, it pricketh all my senses, a feast for gods, and the like of which such as this no mortal man should miss, nor willingly forsake." Urius, forgetting sorrow, laughs low. "And wine that floweth like nectar of the gods, shall we not toast our fortune?" But Norgons lays aside his trencher. "Nay, my friends, this repast, could it be our undoing? Take care, fall not under spells ye perceive not. Devils can set table and play the part of servants, and for their service men pay in hell." His warning falls upon deaf ears. Their thoughts are lulled, their hearts are wrapped in a warm fog. Wine splashes into goblets, and reason fails. Suddenly Urius stops chewing. "This is a place where the belly shall make thralls of us all." Urius looks about at the others, who do not stop feasting. His barbaric temperament liked not overindulgence, as it slows men when at the sword play. Now he rises, and stands as a man suddenly who has lifted himself out of a bed of snakes, and shouts, "Awake, ye men! Remember your quest, for Thragnar's reign stands yet unchallenged. Rise before all is lost." Norgons then answers, "Ease yourself, Urius. We have supped peacefully thus far. The men will not soon be persuaded from such a feast. Perhaps I was wrong to suspect a trap. Lord God provided his people with manna in the desert. Has he done the same with us? There must be some serious intervention to turn us away from this. But nay, I will pray, just in case, if it eases you. Then Urias, though a barbarian, remembers that he is baptized. He casts himself to his knees and prays. Lord God, if we are deceived, give us strength to see it. Tear from our lips anything poisonous. Kindle in us the will to refuse such delights if need be. And if these be a danger, break these bonds of mortal craving. He then returns to his seat and continues to dine gladly. And yet after this, the suspicion of the barbarian is still not put to rest, and he prays another similar prayer to the Almighty in secret, as is barbaric custom. The more they dine, the more does hunger master them, and ever their hands reach forth to seize new viands. Wine courses freely, loosening their wits, and one by one their heads grew heavy with delight. Norgons rises from the table, filled in his belly, but troubled at heart. He would have spoken, yet notes their eyes already clouded, their reason fast ebbing. He senses sin, and clasps the cross to his breast. Silently he prays. The others take it as religious scruples pestering him. Then a stillness falls upon the hall, as though some hidden wind draws breath. The torches burn upright. The very air seems to wait. And into that hush there shines a faint and tender radiance, as of moonlight filtered through a veil. Before them stands the image of the Duchess, not in flesh, but in spirit guise, fair and sorrowing. They all saw her brow pale with care. She lifts her hand. Her voice comes soft as a mother calling her wayward children from peril. My knights, is this how ye hold your oath? Shall ye leave me to the dragon's malice, while ye feast at an enemy's board? With these words, she gestures to the table. Behold, see your feast truly, for it is not as ye suppose. Upon the table the glamour wavers. Fruits upon the platters are revealed as dark and shriveled, as if touched by winter frost. The wines are curdled in their cups. The bread is cracked and reveals heavy mold. One moment a banquet of kings, the next a heap of rotten wastage. The roast is seen crawling with worms. Illusion falls away. The men cry out and push away from the table, their faces pale, their hearts shook to the core. And she is gone. Urias is first to find his voice. Holy heaven! The Duchess hath delivered us. What devil's trick was this, to make us glut ourselves like beasts? Brother Jared crosses himself. Christ's mercy is wide, yet sometimes he sendeth his rebuke through those we love. Blessed be her vision, for without it we were lost. And Norgons says, Take heed, my brothers. This place is unholy indeed. Even the priest was fooled. This was no dream of the belly, but illusion. Even though I pray but lightly, the Lord heard. His strong arm dispersed the spell through our royal lady. Yet we must do better, else be doomed. For Thragna's strength lay not only in might, but in deceits manifold. This sign must abide with us, that without watchfulness the devil's table is set before us, and we sit to eat, unknowing its corruption. The shards of false plates and rotted jellies crumble, wine jugs crack open on the floor, and the hall turns bleak once more. No man spoke as they gathered their gear, the weight of shame heavy on every breast. The belly hath a kingdom of its own, and would be sovereign over oath and brotherhood. Thus, chastened, they forsook the chamber of gladsome victuals, and set their steps again toward the dragon's lair. They rise and continue their journey, wary now of temptation. The chamber of deceptive victuals fades into darkness behind them as they ascend to the next level, each step with increased suspicion. And as they mounted the narrow steps of the lava tube, there came upon them a strange stillness, soft as dusk on summer plains. A faint perfume drifted down, the breath of lotus blooms, gentle and drowsy. At length they enter a vast hall, its roof lost in shadow, and all about are cushions of silk and downy furs, more sumptuous than ever King of Ulthor possessed. The scent hung sweet upon the air, and the very stones seemed warm as a mother's hand. Soft cushions and luxurious divans are scattered about, inviting rest and reprieve for those who have just filled their bellies. Brother Thaddeus looks over the place and says, "Now is a chamber that calls a man to rest his head and ease his weary limbs. In my youth at court I lay on such coverings. Should we not wonder that they were brought to furnish this primitive place?" Brother Jared answers him, "Yea, but even so, 'tis a far cry from the monastery's coarse pillows. Little fear then for some short slumber, as it will harm us not." Urius made comment, "Aye, a brief respite 'tis, and will do. A place to cushion our weary bones and rest. It shall grant restoration to face trials. Soft furs of animals are best for my barbaric head. Even so, I'll accept this eastern silk. How can a man fight if he gets no sleep? Or should a man fall asleep while in combat? Aye, it is possible. I witnessed as much during the wars of the spear. It happened once to a comrade, having covered himself with his long shield, waiting for the enemy with arrows raining down, so being a long time crouched down, under the shield shade, he began to snooze. He did not awaken until late in the day when the battle line moved forward. Here then, now so too will I snooze some."
One who is constantly on guard without sleep is no guard, said Belderoch. Taste these lotus blooms if you cannot sleep. They will calm your mind. The scent so fair and sweet, it shall harmlessly lull your minds and wash away your woes.
"Beware, my friends," said Norgons.
This mild chamber of relaxation encloses no vineyard where salvation is found. These couches the worm lords must use. Our mission is not fulfilled. It is no time for rest in the midst of danger. Have the chambers below not taught you to suspect such luxuries? And take not some fool's drug to deepen your dreams, saying, God hath made, therefore take for human aid. No, it shall cloud our clear purpose. The flower's scent, though pleasant, hides a snare. It's meant to make us forget our mission. Despite Norgonce's admonition, the Bladetongue succumbed to the allure of the chamber's luxuries, reclining on the cushions and breathing deeply of the pale lotus flowers. Their eyelids grow heavy, their thoughts drifting to pleasant dreams. Norgonce prays the beads, struggling like a Hercules to keep his heavy eyelids from shutting, beseeching the help of heaven. Damis the paid bowman, also growing weary, seeks agreement to the plan of even greater ease. I am removing my armor to take advantage of this comfortable place. What man in his right mind sleeps in his armor? So do they concur, and all proceed to unfasten their mail and pull it off. And they lay aside their heavy and bulky armor happily, and put their feet up to relax. Their belts they unbuckle and lay aside. All caution they dismiss, and vigilance they abolish. No, brothers, put your armor back on, says Norgonce. You are doing exactly as your adversary wants, that you remove what protects you. Do you think that Vorthragna will warn you first before she comes to take her meat? It will make for easy fare, her dining unhindered, her meat having no armor to separate. Brothers, fight this torpid ease and rise. Our cause demands we press on, not delay. Then he prays, Lord God, lend me strength to rouse the men and break the bonds of listless flesh that now bind us. Urius, noticing the talk, grumbles. Let us to daze some more. We demand it. Stop bothering us. Why do you ever urge us to this work of unrelenting quest, slaving away? Are we divinely chosen for some unclear and vaguely hinted military accomplishment? What will God want next? Norgonce ignores his words. He moves among them, shaking each man and calling upon the Lord God's light. He even provoked them, sprinkling holy water on each of them, and not just a few drops. The warriors, irked and grumbling, nevertheless rouse themselves, shaking off the lethargy that had begun to consume them. Urius, arranging himself, declares, Awake! It is witchery that bids us lay so still. We will lose our will to fight and press ahead. Shall your fathers who sleep in the earth awake to learn from angels that this is how you men ended? Shame, eternal shame it would be to sleep away one's destiny. But come, all ye sleepers, and shake yourselves out of it. The hour is late, and the beast is the one who must be put to sleep. Then Brother Jared, whose eyes had remained open, as monks are not susceptible to sleep magic, pointed, trembling, toward the farthest couches. See, my brothers, there lie the truth of this place, a trap clever and subtle, easeful slumber seeming sinless and harmless, disguised in fragrant blooms, meant to bind us here in murk of sleep endless and dreaming. Look over there on those couches in the far corner. You men did not notice it before when you first came in. There is armor and shields, weapons fallen down,
empty helms of style from days of yore. Aye, but look ye closer. The helmets are not so empty, nor vacant are the cuirasses astrew, rib cages within, bony hands still clutching pillows long rotted. These men came seeking ease, and ease became their tomb. They slept and never woke. Then the rats took their flesh. Norgons then made the sign of the cross and quickly prayed in the ancient tongue the prayer of thanksgiving. Then he looked over them all with determination. We must beware each new place, for danger lurks in forms most fair, seeming harmless, yet deadly to our cause. Now, good men, we leave this hall behind at once, lest again it summon our weary limbs for a short respite, and instead of slipping into sleep, we slip into doom. With greater resolve, the Bladetongue and the others strap their armor back on again and leave the chamber of many pillows and sweet fragrance. Their bodies are weary, but their minds alert. They ascend a corridor sloping upwards to the next level of the cone, each man now being keenly aware against all allurement. And they came thereafter into a cavernous hall, and at the farthest end thereof stood iron doors of no small making, bolted fast with a lock of stern and weighty fashion. The very sight of it bespoke peril or princely treasure beyond. Urius, the long-haired barbarian, speaks. What lay behind this great security? Be wary, brothers. Whatever lieth behind such strong keeping must be either glory or doom, treasure or trap, monster or madness. Yet how break in? We have no key, and this iron is wrought to defy the hack of any man's axe. Is this the end of our going? Belderok answered him. Let me assay that lock. Certain talents be deemed as criminal craft among the townsfolk, yet such can sometimes be of service. Knowledge which I mastered, because no one else would. We must use our talents for the sake of heaven, right? Priest, this lock is of dwarven work, small and simple. Aye, the forger thought it a cunning lock, but it be no challenge for the skillful. So he unrolled from his pouch a small wrapping that held slender steel picks, and set to his delicate labor. Long he labored, near a whole hourglass gone, and many times seemed ready to yield. 'Tis a mite better than first seemeth to me. Once more only, good fellows, Saint Baldemere, pray help us. After 3 more tries came a sharp click, and the chain rattled. The doors swung wide. Got it! The bolt clicks and chains rattle, and the doors open. What they behold glitters like sunrise on water. It was a chamber whose walls were glowing with wreaths of gold and ropes of precious gems, and in the midst of it towers a mound of treasure, high as a hill, gleaming with coins, jewels, and artifacts of unimaginable worth. The brightness thereof lights all the hall like noonday. It is a horde stupendous. A sudden madness of mirth falls upon the men, all save the monks, who had vowed holy poverty. Norgons looks to them. They say that it's no illusion, but a real horde. The cleric laughs full-hearted. Uriah slaps his thigh with barbaric glee. The two mercenary bowmen cackle till their eyes seem ready to leap from their skulls, and even Belderok, against his intent, gives way to laughter. For they all at once perceive the bitter jest of the world, that men labor a lifetime and ruin kingdoms to gain but a handful of such wealth, and here all the while it lieth idle and forgotten. Vanity of vanities indeed. They all must sit down and gather themselves. After all the high mirth, which lasts long, Damis the mercenary speaks first with whisper, as if no one but them should overhear. So the dragon's hoard, a wealth untold, enough to make each man a king in gold. But can we even count it? Odohir answers his companion. It does not matter. This fortune, how glorious indeed! It will lift our lives from dust. Nay, grant us power, riches, and all we yearn for. No more looking to be hired as hirelings. Instead, it is we who will be doing the hiring. Norgons, although glad, praise beads yet, and still gave stern warning as always. Beware, this chamber holds an even greater snare. 'Tis no illusion, yet love of coin shall burden us down. With so heavy a haul, we might never attain the height of our sacred quest. That monstrous thing easily flies to and fro daily from her summit den to check on her mounds of gold piled high. These treasures vast, though tempting, will remain here. Touch them not, for Vorthragna no doubt can sense it when warm but foreign fingers dare touch her coin cold and precious to her. Are you mad, priest? Says Odohir. Or is it that you think I am mad? We expected to hear from you on every lure thus far, but when it comes to this, and you repeat your dull admonitions, I am truly shocked. You of the clergy speak lightly of such riches, you who need not toil as we. We have borne hunger and battle for this. Shall you forbid us now? Will you keep us from taking what we came for? And will we forfeit the chance to right our miserable lives and improve our state? Not on your life. Mad indeed you be, if that is what you have in mind. Or is it that you think that I am mad? And the two mercenaries rush away into the many mounds and start filling their sacks with handfuls of gold crisettes, silver balloons, and gleaming jewels, embossed chalices, candelabras, ornate vessels of olden days, heedless of danger, deaf to all counsel, ignoring Norgonce's word. Belderok, having an unusual wisdom his own, adds his warning. Take heed, you fools, consider the saying, piled wealth bringeth woe, when taken in greed and guarded by a foe. Nay, thief, declares Damis, these riches be ours by right and by might. They raise us and grant us lives worthy of the highly placed. But now the two mercenaries begin arguing with each other. One deems it wise to depart at once out of danger, abandon the crew, and leave the volcanic cone. Gleefully let us both make off with swollen bags of treasure, says Odohir, busily working to fill his sack. Damis whispers in answer, demanding that they carry the treasures all the way to the top and defeat the beast, lest ever after we be hunted by the monster Vorthragna, that many-headed storm flasher, whom these remaining Bladetongue will surely not defeat. Yet even as they quarrel, a low rumble shakes the ground. A hot wind sweeps through, and a low growl surrounds all. And suddenly the darkness behind the treasure swells, and Vorthragna rises just beyond the hill of gold, as if summoned by mention of her name, her 7 blasphemous heads rising in fury to defend her horde. Do you touch what is mine, mortal mice? Now face the justice of Vorthragna. As a viper hunts and finds and easily devours his mouse, so will I do unto you. At her roar of command, the iron doors clang shut of themselves, locking the company in. The Bladetongue scatters, each seeking any cover he might find from the dragon's wrath. They hide in various places. The beast hunts them. Now Urias, searching desperately, has spied a narrow fissure in the rock, a hidden shaft sloping upward. Damis urges Odohir, "That's enough. Let's get away. The dragon be upon us. She'll sniff us out soon." But his companion does not stop filling his bag. "No need for panic, brother. With this sack, I will make a kingdom." "Then remember me when you do," whispers Damis, "for already am I your court jester, and must hint at things you do not want to hear. Forfeit be that dream, Odohir. Already the beast hunts us. Accept the way of things. Such wealth is not meant for us, and besides, it would cause the envy of our kin. Nay, the kin will benefit as well. Besides, I owe my uncle. Then take but a handful and be off. Don't be fooled. Your debts are not the worst thing. One cannot purchase even an hour more of life. I beg ye, gold is never worth dying for. Hark now to the priest." "Come," says Urias, beckoning them. "Away! Quickly!" But Odohir pauses to answer his companion. If the priest is so sure of his victory, and of his god, let him bring down the dragon himself, even now, saving all of us from her magic before she can do worse. Why delays he that work which he has come to do?" Urias signals to the others to slip over at once and crawl in, so each hurries to safety. Damis realizes that he must drop his sack bulging with treasure, or else be pursued relentlessly by the creature. And he does drop it right there. His face grimaces for the painful loss. One by one, they all slip within the hole, all save Odohir. Damis, already inside, calls sharply. "Drop your burden, Odohir! Forfeit the dream, or forfeit your life. Leave the gold. Leave it." Twice Odohir tries to force the swollen sack into the narrow escape shaft. The bag of loot will not conform itself to the narrow passage. He therefore pours some out onto the floor, and the pieces clang and ring. The beast is alerted. It's not enough. The sack is still too large. Lacking common sense, he even stoops to restore some of it. Damis from within the crevice addresses him in angry whisper. The beast is hot on, sniffing about the shadows for you. She knows what you have. Leave it. Come now. Look, there. She is nearing. With stubborn vanity, Odohir again attempts to push the bulging bag into the narrows. He tries and fails, and attempts yet again. But it is too late. He has lingered too long. 2 sets of bestial jaws close over him and pick him up, his limbs flailing about. And just as a dog might pick up a ground burrower, shaking it to death, so does Vorthragna shake Odohir. All the gold and silver flies out of the bag and is scattered everywhere as the Bladetongues look on in disbelief. Odohir, crying horribly, pleads for rescue. He is unable to escape or even fight. Vorthragna's many heads lock onto him. They surround him, though still alive, tearing into the fresh meat. His cries echo through the chamber. The other heads keep lunging and snapping against any drawing nigh for rescue. With horrific howls, the jaws tear off his limbs and devour them. The remaining torso and head, still alive, bloat the beast's main neck, swallowing like a serpent does his prey. A grim testament to the man's folly as he enters his living tomb. And Damis weeps bitterly. Norgons also is saddened. Another man to a dreadful end. Bitter is this wisdom, yet it must be learned. You men, think now, each one of you, if you will continue, or avoiding the wrath of this beast, withdraw. I say there is no shame in retreat, for our company grows thin, and the way is hard, and final victory cannot be vouchsafed. Belderok and Damis, stout yeomen, together with brothers Thaddeus and Jared, monks, were shaken indeed by the manner of their servant's dreadful end, yet none would take the path of safety. The monks were resolute against the evil spirit, tempter of their brothers, and the 2 yeomen could not bear such evil remain upon the earth. So did Belderok and Damis, encouraged by the word of the monks, kneel and take upon them the vow of the Bladetongue, binding themselves to the company's honor and resolute overthrow of the wicked beast. And when Damis rose from his kneeling, he spake the words of the vow stoutly enough. Yet in his voice there lurked a wavering note, as of one whose heart kept counsel with itself. No man blamed him, for grief sat heavy on them all, yet a shadow passed over his brow that none there fully heeded. Thus were Belderok and Damis drawn more nearly into the heart of the fellowship, for sorrow and peril do often nourish brotherhood. And when they had risen from their knees, each man of the Bladetongue set his hand upon theirs, sealing the bond that death itself should not unmake. So, being now knit together in one accord, and strengthened with fresh purpose, they turn and hurry from that place of horror, finding the ascending passage that leads upward into the higher ways of the mountain. They now follow a way narrower and more straight, hewn from Vulcan-born stone. where the heat rose in wavering blasts, and the very air crackled as though with hidden ire. Sweat ran from them freely, and a heaviness settled upon, as if to bespeak some secret disapproval or grievance unreconciled. In such furnace darkness and narrow passage, their spirits took fire. They pressed one another roughly. "On then! Move, you laggard! What hinders you now? Are you daft?" And each man's voice grew sharp, blaming the other for mischance and loss. Brother Thaddeus felt his own heart roused. "Look well, comrades," said he, pointing ahead. "These molten pools lie treacherous on every side. This place seethes with a madness. I feel it rising in me like scalding vapor. The heat would scorch reason, and the smoke choke out self-command." "Aye," said Urius, drawing forth his bronze sword with wary hand. "There is a fury in this air, hot as fiend's breath. Shall the spirits of this place, entering us as vapor into the nostrils, drive us to destroy each other?" "Take heed," said Norgons. "If our hearts turn against one another, then is our cause undone. Keep near the peace of God, my friends. Bear with one another in patience, even in this stifling place. We must beware, lest the heat of controversy consumes us all. Know well that Vorthragnar's might lieth in our division also." But the narrow passage worked its poison. Harsh words were exchanged, and remembrance of past errors stung each man afresh. Some cried that Norgons was overstern and fanatical. Others defended him stoutly. Little grievances grew large as mountains, and the very walls seemed to press upon them with muttering threat.